Hello, I'm Roger Bisbee from the Skill Builder channel. We get lots and lots of emails and photographs from people with render that looks a little bit shabby, a little bit tired, and they don't want to hack it all off. They want to know what they can do to give it a bit of a facelift. Maybe they're selling the house, or maybe they just want to make the place look better. Well, there's good news. With my friends at EWI Store, that's External Wall Insulation Store, we're going to apply some products here which will show you what you can do to facelift a bit of render, make it look as good as new. Now, normally EWI Store are selling external wall insulation, and all these systems they have are for external wall insulation, but you can also use them on painted render, believe it or not. So provided that paint is on there and it's not flaking off, just have a good look at it. I've run a trowel over it, it's pretty sound, it's all soaked in, so it's nice. First of all, we put a primer on there, and then we can put the top coat on. Now, this wall here, the one where I've covered it with a universal primer, is because we're going to put a base coat on this wall, because the door was altered. There was a little bit of shabby looking render around there and a few other blemishes. We just thought it's a better job to actually give it a nice base coat, put the mesh into the base coat so it stops any cracking, and then we'll go on with the top coat so that it will match the other one. Now, interestingly, this other render coat has actually got mesh in it already. So although it's sand and cement, it did have mesh embedded in the base coat. So by the time I've done the two, they'll both be meshed up, they'll both be anti-crack, if you like, and hopefully the customer, when they get back from their little holiday, will be delighted. But I've got to get a move on. Now, I'm going to put the angle beads up first. These are from EWI Store, a nice one to use actually, because you get the mesh. This isn't quite long enough for the door. Sometimes what I do is I center it, and then I just put a little infill at each end that is equal. And that way, if anybody looks at it and there is any tiny hint of a join there, they see a kind of symmetrical join at both ends, and I think it just looks better. Okay, new day, same t-shirt, but the base coat is now dry. The primed render coat that I did on the back is now perfectly dry. So I'm going to go on with this top coat. Now, this top coat is not the cheapest thing in the world, I've got to say, but it goes a very long way. It goes on really thin. This one's a 1.5mm grain size, and all you do is scrape it back so that it's only 1.5mm thick. So I'll crack on with that. I'll show you what I'm doing as I go along, and we've got to watch it because it's due to rain around about 4 o'clock-ish. So that's always a critical thing here, but because we're in such a great position, it's a warm day, I think it's going to dry. I don't think we've got any problem with wash off. we're just going to peel off the remaining bits of masking tape, tidy the thing up, and I'm going to use this cleaner that the EWI store sells to remove any splashes. Now, it's a little bit confusing this, because when I first saw this render cleaner, I was thinking, oh, this is the stuff you use if you've got dirty stains on a monocouche or something like that. So it's a little bit confusing, because it's not for that, it's for cleaning up after a job, taking off those splashes. So don't use it to clean your render, or the render will start disappearing on you. So all we've got to do is just give this a little spray, leave it for 20 minutes, and after 20 minutes I'll get a little nylon scouring pad and clean it off. Of course, the sensible thing to do is to mask up everything, and then you won't have to worry about this, but there's always going to be those odd little spots. So we just finished the job, and it started to rain, which is brilliant, isn't it? But the sun's come back out again, and when the sun comes back out, you can see all the little imperfections. Unfortunately, they call it the ugly hour, you know, that 1 hour of the day when the raking light is shining across and it shows up all the imperfections. So I came unstuck. I've got to admit, I got a little bit too cocky, a little bit too big for my boots. Hey, what's new? So when I did the first job, I had Paul Christmas from EWI Pro Training Academy. He came down, he gave me a hand. So we were going great guns on it. And I thought, yeah, I can do this. I just love this. So when I tackled this one, no problem. Except, of course, the sun came out, it got hotter, the stuff started to dry, and I really struggled to keep a wet edge. So all I'm saying to you is, if you're going to try this, get 2 people, because if I'd had somebody else helping me, we could have just carried on through. Somebody else could have maintained that wet edge, and then they could have just rubbed up after me, and it would have been a lot easier. As it was, I struggled, and I paid the price, because as you can probably see, with this sun on here, there's a join there, and there's another bit up there where you can see where I just couldn't do it all in one hit. So what do I do now? Well, I thought about painting it. You can get a silicone paint, again from the EWI store, I can get a matching colour. I could paint it, but Paul Christmas said to me, it doesn't always work. The paint tends to follow the line of the join, and after all that work, you can still see it. So what's the alternative? He said, recoat it. I went, no, I don't want to recoat it. But because we've still got to do the back of the house and the side of the house, we're going to get a spray machine in. Now, the EWI store does sell these spray machines just for this kind of job. But if you're like me, you probably just want to hire one for a week, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a hold of one, beg, borrow, steal, and we're going to spray the rest of the house, because my old arm, you know, I'm getting on now, and it just won't do that, you know. If I was doing this every day as a job, I'd definitely have a spray machine, because you go so fast, it's so easy, and you don't even have to rub it up. I mean, you can just give it a little rub up, but if you don't, it still works beautifully. So watch this space. On the next video, we're going to spray the rest of it, and probably give this a little blow over just to hide my sins.